everyone, my name is Kristen and I'm the Education Coordinator here at Volunteers for Wildlife. Volunteers for Wildlife is a wildlife hospital and education facility located in Locust Valley, New York. We take in over 2,000 sick, injured, and orphaned wild animals every year. Guys, these are wild animals, so no cats, no dogs, nothing that's going to go to your regular vet. We take in wild birds, mammals, reptiles, even amphibians. So today, I'm here to talk to you about a very special group of birds called the raptors. But before we jump into that, I want to discuss a little bit about what makes a bird a bird. What do all birds have in common? And they are, all birds have feathers, all birds have wings, okay? All birds have beaks, and all of those beaks are specialized, okay? I want you to picture a heron with a long, sharp beak, perfect for spearing fish. Or a parrot could have a tough, rounded beak, perfect for cracking nuts, okay? All those beaks are specialized. And the other thing these birds have in common is that they all lay eggs. Now, when we talk about raptors, we're actually talking about birds of prey, okay? Birds of prey. Now, these could include hawks, falcons, eagles, osprey, and owls, just to name a few. And all of these birds have 5 things in common, okay? Those are, they all have hooked beaks, perfect for tearing apart that prey. They all have long talons on the end of their feet, and those are perfect for scooping up and catching that prey, okay? They have 2 excellent senses, and that's that they have very good eyesight and very good hearing, okay? Which make them really, really good hunters. And the last thing they all have in common is that they all eat live prey. Now today I brought 4 very special animals with me, and we're gonna go get them and you're gonna have a look. So come with me. Let's meet our very first animal ambassador. This here is Orlando. He's an 11-year-old eastern screech owl. He came to our facility in 2009 when a member of the public cut down his nesting tree, okay? Out Orlando tumbled when he was just a baby, and that member of the public decided to keep him illegally as a pet. Unfortunately, Orlando was so young and impressionable at this time that he became very tame. He lost the fear of humans and never learned how to properly hunt. Unfortunately, these are necessary skills in order to be able to survive out in the wild. But now he lives at our facility and he's a great animal ambassador to teach people just like you a little bit about this amazing species. Now, let's take a closer look. There are a couple of things that really stand out to us when we look at Orlando. The first thing we notice would be his size. Orlando is very small. A lot of people think that he's actually a baby, but you know what? He is fully grown. He's never gonna get any bigger than this. And while he is a small owl, there are smaller owls in this area. The smaller owl that we have is called the northern saw-whet owl, and it comes up just to about here on Orlando. And you know what? The smallest owl in the world is called the elf owl, and it only comes up about 5 inches to the top of his wing there. Now, the other thing we notice right away is his beautiful coloration. Orlando is what we call the red morph, okay? Morph means coloration. This eastern screech owl comes in 2 colorations, the red morph and the gray morph. These colorations, okay, are going to help them blend into their environment, what we call camouflage. The eastern screech owl are cavity nesters. I'm sure some of you have seen out in the wild those big trees with a nice big hole in the middle, which is the perfect place that this owl likes to live, okay? I want you to imagine if he's staying very, very still and he closes those big eyes here, okay, you might not see him at all in this cavity. His feathers really resemble tree bark, okay? You can see the whites, the blacks, and the reds all blending together to give this owl the perfect camouflage. Now the other thing we notice are these two things on the top of his head. A lot of people think that those are his ears, but those actually are not his ears. Those are what we call his feather tufts. His feather tufts. There is some debate about what those feather tufts are actually for, whether they're up or down, okay? Some people think they might be used for communication. They could be communicating to other screech owls if there's danger in that area. Other people think they're used as part of that camouflage, okay? So I want you to imagine they're standing on a branch, okay? They're closing their eyes, they're standing really still, and they have those feather tufts up in the air, okay? They might look a little bit like a broken branch. It really breaks up that silhouette, okay? So if those aren't his ears, then where are his ears? Do you guys see this black line around Orlando's face, okay? His ears are located on either side of this black line, okay? But unlike our ears, there's no external ear, okay? There's no part like this on their ear. This part of our ear helps us to amplify and collect sound, okay? If I cup my ear like this, it helps me to hear better. So owls don't have that, but what they do have is that black line. That black line is called their facial disc. The facial disc, it's a collection of feathers around the face that push and funnel the sound to their little ear holes on either side of that black line. The other thing that this owl has, okay, is that their ears are not on the same level. They're not symmetrical like our ears are. One ear is a little bit higher and one ear is a little bit lower, okay? This helps them to get a very accurate location on where sound is coming from. The word we use for this is to triangulate, okay? This trait in particular is going to make them an excellent nighttime hunter. You know, these guys are nocturnal. Nocturnal, meaning they're active during the nighttime and they have a period of rest during the day. That hearing, okay, is going to help them hear their prey when it is pitch black outside, okay? An owl like this size, is going to eat very small prey items, things like mice, small birds, or large flying insects, which is a big contrast to the animals we're going to meet next. Let's put Orlando away and go meet the next animal ambassador. This is Marcus, our adult male great horned owl. The great horned owl get their name from the large feather tufts they have on top of their head that resemble, you guessed it, great horns. Marcus came to our facility in 2003 from a town called Port Washington on the north shore of Long Island. Marcus was found severely entangled in fishing line. Unfortunately, the fishing line had cut through the muscle and tendon of his left wing, leaving him with severely impaired flight. Without perfect vision, perfect hearing, and perfect flight, you cannot legally release a raptor back out into the wild. Now, the great horned owl here are sometimes called the tiger of the skies, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about why. The first thing I like to talk about with great horned owls are their eyes. Owls have fantastic vision and very interesting adaptations in their eyes. So let's begin. Owl eyes take up 70% of their skull. That's a lot of room. To put that in perspective, if our eyes took up 70% of our skull, they would be the size of grapefruits. They'd be absolutely enormous. If we took our eye out of our head, it would be spherical, right? Like a globe. But if we took an owl eye out of its head, it would be cylindrical, like a toilet paper tube. It's very, very long. Having such a great big eye like that does not leave room for any of the muscle like we have around our eyes. As humans, we can look straight ahead, and without moving our head, we can look up and down and left and right, okay? And we can do that all without moving our head. But owls had to adapt in a different way. So, if you take your hands at home and you feel the back of your neck, you'll be able to feel some bones back there. Those bones are called our vertebrae, and we have 7 of them, which allow us about 180-degree rotation from one shoulder to the other. Now, owls have double that number of vertebrae. They have 14 vertebrae, which allow them a 270-degree rotation from way over one shoulder all the way around to way over the other, okay? They can't quite move at 360 because what would happen? Their head would just pop off and roll away. So 270 degrees is about as good as it's going to get. They can keep their body completely straight and move that head 270 degrees. And they can do it completely silently. Completely silently. Now, like I said with Orlando before, these guys are nocturnal. They are nighttime hunters. They rely very heavily on stealth for when they're hunting. They use those amazing eyes and their amazing ears to hear their prey and spot their prey in almost pitch blackness, okay? Owls also have the ability to have silent flight. They have what we call fringed feathers, very, very soft, delicate feathers, meaning they can fly through the air and make not a sound at all. So like we said before, this guy is the tiger of the sky, meaning he is the ultimate hunter. There are so many types of prey that this animal eats. He's not going to eat little things like little mice or sparrows like the screech owl would. He's going to eat larger prey items, squirrels, rabbits, okay, rats, a possum. And this is one of the very few animals that also eat skunks. Can you believe it? Skunks. Because while they have great eyesight and great hearing, their sense of smell is not so great. And owls, in fact, raptors of all kinds, do something very interesting. About 6 to 12 hours after they eat, they produce what we call a pellet. An owl pellet contains the teeth, fur, bones, and everything else they can't digest of the animal they've eaten before. Once they produce that pellet, they're ready to eat again. Now, Marcus here looks pretty big, right? He's one of the biggest owls we have here on Long Island. And at home, I want you to think to yourself about how much he must weigh. What do we think? Well, you might be surprised when I tell you, Marcus here only weighs 3.5 pounds. Can you believe it? 3.5 pounds. The reason he looks so large is because he's made up of layers and layers of these very, very dense feathers, okay? He's also a bird, which means he has very light, porous bones, making him very light for flight. Now wait till you meet the next guy I'm bringing out. Hold on just one. Meet Amelia, our 7-year-old female American kestrel. American kestrels are North America's smallest falcon and cousin to the well-known peregrine falcon. The peregrine falcon is famous for being the world's fastest animal, reaching speeds of over 240 miles per hour. While this little lady here is fast, she's not quite that fast, but the American kestrel has been clocked at speeds of over 60 miles per hour, making them faster than a cheetah. Many people are surprised to learn that the American kestrel thrives in urban environments. They do very well there. There's lots of tall buildings for them to make their nests in, and there's an abundance of prey. Amelia was actually found in Queens by a police officer who saw that she was down on the ground. When he brought her into our facility, we determined that she was very tame around people, and she had the inability to hunt. She had no idea how to find food for herself. We drew the conclusion that she was probably kept illegally as somebody's pet, and unfortunately, without those skills she needs to survive, she cannot be released back out into the wild. There are a couple of very interesting things about the American kestrel. The first thing I'd like to point out are her markings. You can see here, Amelia has 2 stripes down the sides of her face, right underneath her eyes. The American kestrel is a diurnal raptor, meaning they hunt during the daytime and have a period of inactivity or sleep during the daytime. Those two black stripes are a little reminiscent of a sport, right? Maybe something like baseball or football where the players put the black underneath their eyes. Those stripes help to absorb the sunlight, keeping her field of vision very clear, keeps the sun right out of her eyes, giving her a very accurate view, which is important for when she's hunting. Now, Amelia's coloration is also very interesting. The American kestrel is a species that is sexually dimorphic, meaning the male and female look different from one another. You can tell them apart by the way they look. Amelia here, okay, has browns and tans in her coloration, as well as black on her wingtips, stripes along her back, and the very top of her head here is a light gray color with black streaks going through it. Now, the male is going to be 1/3 smaller than the female and also more brightly colored, and I'll tell you why. The male, where she has gray on the top of her head, has a more vibrant blue color, and the tips of his wings are that same bright blue. That's because while Amelia, or the female American kestrel, is sitting on the nest guarding the eggs, okay, a larger raptor or bird of prey might think, hey, that's a nice small bird. I might like to make a meal out of her, and come in trying to get her. But the male, who's smaller, faster, and more brightly colored, can swoop in, flash those bright colors, distracting the predator and leading them away from the nest, while the female, with her more mottled, dull colors, can remain hidden in the nest, keeping her brood safe and sound. That's pretty cool. We gotta thank the males for that. That's very impressive. Another really interesting thing about the American kestrel is the way that they hunt, okay? Remember we talked a little bit about those fast speeds before? This is where that comes in. So, the American kestrel will start off very high when they hunt. Let's say on top of a skyscraper, right? They use those amazing eyes to fix on, let's say, a flock of sparrows down below. They fix down on them, and she goes into a dive, okay? She goes into a dive, scaring those birds up into the air, okay? She then flies back up into the air, and the American kestrel has the amazing ability to be able to hover in midair. They hover. They can even fly backwards, okay? So while she's hovering, she uses those amazing eyes to zoom in on exactly the bird that they want. And that's when they go into their stoop. That's when they're gonna reach those speeds. She makes her body into a little tiny bullet and goes head first as fast as she can down toward that bird that she wants. Okay? Right before she gets to that bird, she kicks her little feet out, knocking that bird off course and stunning it. She's then able to grab it and take it away somewhere private to eat. Now that's pretty incredible stuff. I'd like to get a close-up here of Amelia's beak. Check out that amazing hooked beak. Remember we said all raptors have that hooked beak? Now the kestrel is interesting in that the beak, while it is hooked, has an extra notch on it. You see that extra notch on that beak? That notch is the perfect size for slipping in between the vertebrae of an animal, so she's better able to break it apart. She's also got these amazingly sharp talons down here. Check those out. Now she uses those as the knife and fork, the beak and the talons, for ripping apart that prey, so she's better able to digest. Now if you guys want to hold on a minute, I'll bring out our next animal ambassador. On to our last guest of the day. This is Baby, our 19-year-old male red-tailed hawk. The red-tailed hawk gets their name from this beautiful copper-colored tail they have there in the back, but they won't develop this characteristic red tail until they're about a year old or finishing their first molt. A molt is when a bird will drop its old feathers in order to grow new ones. This can happen seasonally or annually. Baby came to our facility in 2001 after suffering a severe fall from his nest. Despite our best efforts, due to his young age and lengthy rehabilitation time, he became very accustomed to people, making him unreleasable back out into the wild. Now, the red-tailed hawk is going to be the most commonly sighted of the birds of prey. Sometimes you can see them on the sides of highways perched up on the lamppost. What they're doing is waiting for an animal to decide whether or not to cross the road, and in that moment of hesitation, the red-tailed hawk will swoop down and snatch up their prey. While this is a very intelligent strategy, it does put them at risk for collisions, which is the #1 reason these red-tailed hawks are admitted to our hospital. Another reason these red-tailed hawks are admitted to our hospital is due to rodenticide poisoning. Sometimes we leave out poison to kill the rodents in our area, and that makes them very lethargic and slow-moving, making them a very easy target for a red-tailed hawk or other bird of prey. The bird of prey can therefore ingest it and pick up secondary poisoning from that rodenticide. Red-tailed hawks have a very wide variety of prey items: mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. Just like Amelia, who we met before, red-tailed hawks are diurnal, meaning they hunt during the day. I'd like to point out one key feature that this bird has that makes him very well equipped for daytime hunting. If we take a look at baby's face, you can see he looks quite serious. Do you see the brow bone over his eyes? So that brow acts like a built-in visor. It's called the brow ridge, and it keeps the sun out of his eyes while he's soaring around and hunting. While Amelia before was built for speed, the red-tailed hawk, like baby here, is built for soaring. They have big, wide wings and a long fan-like tail, which enables them to stay up in the air for a very long time. What this bird likes to do is ride thermal currents, which are columns of hot air coming up from the ground into the sky. If they can ride those currents and keep going around in the sky, that gives them an excellent field of view for picking out the prey that they like. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today and meeting all of my animal ambassadors. We hope you had a good time, and we hope you can come visit us soon.